Of all the sweets in my childhood, my favorite was chocolate eggs, inside of which was a toy, each time being a new one. And in this unpredictable nature was all kinds of childish joy. Fortunately, there are some objects that can bring me back to these feelings from the past. Granted, in the case of an anomaly, everything's more predictable, but no less surprising. Meet SCP-3168. At first glance, this is a standard Russian nesting doll, with 7 dolls hidden one inside the other. The object is capable of anomalously affecting the development of domestic chicks. If a chicken becomes pregnant, artificially or naturally within a radius of about 9 feet, which is 3 meters from the anomaly, the young offspring in the eggs will mutate. For this to work, certain conditions must be met. The 6 upper layers of the nesting doll must be removed, and the smallest, 7th doll must stand in the 6 lower parts. In such a case, the anomalous effect appears only in the hens, not on roosters. If the male is at the specified distance from the object, and then moves further away to a female, then the chicken will subsequently lay normal eggs, from which normal chickens will hatch. Chickens that were close to the object, but whose fertilization occurred after leaving the set range, also gave birth to offspring without any anomalous characteristics. So, what actually hatches from those eggs that are exposed? SCP-3168-1 emerge from them. This number refers to paranormal creatures that look like moving structures on chicken legs. In Russian folklore, they're called huts on chicken legs. In such things, the evil heroine of Russian fairy tales named Baba Yaga lives, for example. Only the limbs of these creatures consist of living organic matter, while the rest is inorganic in nature. These are pretty common materials used in construction, namely bricks, nails, boards, and so on. Such a paradoxical structure doesn't prevent the creature from going through the same stages of development that an ordinary chicken goes through from the first days of conception. Like non-anomalous chickens, SCP-3168-1 will leave their shell 21 days after they're hatched. The size of the hut on chicken legs also corresponds to a typical barely hatched baby chicken. The DNA of the anomaly fully corresponds to the gene set of the parental specimens. The sex ratio in the brood is approximately even. 50% are roosters, and the amounts of hens born is the same. The legs of the anomalous creature have the usual blood vessels for chickens, but in order to pump blood through the body, a heart is critical, but SCP-3168-1 does not have one. Other organs that could perform a similar function are also absent. Yet despite this, the blood circulates quietly from one limb to another, although they are isolated from each other. This was discovered by introducing special dyes into the blood. The feet are also kept warm, corresponding to the standard body temperature of a domestic chicken. As for nutrition, it's very diverse. On one hand, the object can eat the usual food meant for a chicken. The anomalous chickens eat up compound feed and any grain feed. Building materials are also suitable as food. At the same time, the creature eats them in exactly the same way, through open doors and windows. The digestion process has its own anomalous features. The creature converts regular pet food into lignin. The creature's wooden elements are then reproduced from this material. In turn, inorganic substances are immediately integrated into the structure of the hut. The mechanism for this process is unknown. Actually, it wasn't even possible to identify any irregularities here. The portions of building materials that the creature consumes do not correlate with the mass that SCP-3168-1 acquires. The composition of the inorganic part of the creature is always stable, even if some components, like nails or boards, are missing from the diet. Their excess also does not affect the object's structure either. For example, there was one instance whose diet completely lacked aluminum. But despite this, aluminum parts appeared in the hut's design over time. This means that the creature has its own mechanism for the synthesis of certain chemical elements and materials. But one thing the anomalous chicks have no luck with is motherly love. Not all chickens want to raise a child with such extravagant features. About 15 to 25% of new mothers who have had babies for the first time refuse SCP-3168-1. Among the more experienced mothers, this value ranges from 80 to 90%. At the same time, the anomalous creatures try their best to look like ordinary chickens, at least as far as their anatomy allows. They're even capable of things that their anatomy does not provide at all. SCP-3168-1 possess vision despite the absence of eyes. They don't have a brain either, but that doesn't stop them from imprinting. This word usually refers to the primary imprinting of a large moving object as the parent. Thus, researchers who are present when SCP-3168 hatches are perceived by them to be mom and dad. The objects are also capable of emitting sounds characteristic of chickens. They do this by quickly opening and closing windows and doors. Granted, the creatures don't know how to sound like roosters. For the first 3.5 years, the developmental stages of normal and anomalous chicks coincide, but then the anomalous features begin to appear. The huts on the chicken's legs produce an excessive amount of growth hormone, although there are no corresponding organs or glands for this. If you inject this hormone into ordinary chickens, they begin to grow very quickly. The anomalous buildings are also affected by this hormone. All paranormal huts have individual features in their architecture. Granted, it depends on their parents. If they were born from the same couple, their architectural style will match in 75 to 80% of all cases. The offspring from different parents will have significant differences. At the same time, the breed of the parents does not matter at all. In one of the experiments, Foundation scientists crossed the female 3168-F-417 with the male 3168-M-131. This couple gave birth, 2/3 of which looked like a ranch on chicken legs. Then, the male was replaced with specimen 3168-M-132. His union with the same female produced 75% of chicks with Pacific cottage-style houses. It was noted that all 3 individuals of the test parents were representatives of the Orpington breed. The vast majority of buildings hatched from the eggs are residential, but there are notable exceptions. They're less common than 4% of all cases, but the variety of forms among them is vast. These could be stadiums or water treatment plants. There are also supermarkets and movie theaters, elevators and greenhouses, warehouses and garages. But the exact copies of the world's architectural masterpieces are the most striking. Among them have been seen the Taj Mahal, Parliament House of Ghana, and St. Paul's Cathedral. The interior decoration may also differ from individual to individual. In the interior of the anomalies, carpeting is quite common. The buildings are equipped with plumbing and electricity, but there's almost no furniture in them. The door locks of the objects that have the same parent are also identical. Therefore, they can be opened with one key, or at least its reduced or enlarged copy. If you take a closer look at the anomaly, one can come to the conclusion that such a creation could not have possibly arisen on its own. This must be the fruit of someone's wild imagination. And who among us likes to invent all sorts of crazy things for fun? Marshall, Carter, and Dark, of course. These guys are known for selling anomalous works of art. The Foundation periodically makes surprise visits to this organization. They usually end with arrests or the containment of new anomalies. During one of these visits, SCP-3168 was captured. Documentation was received with it, shedding some light on the object's origin. As it turns out, Marshall, Carter, and Dark received a lot of nesting dolls from some unnamed agent of one of the associated organizations. He gave them the object, and in return he was forgiven his gambling debts. This happened back in 1998. Given that the anomaly has been out of the Foundation for some time, it can be assumed that individual instances of SCP-3168-1 may have ended up in the wild. Unfortunately, such information was not documented, but the likelihood of it is high, given that one instance was able to escape directly from the Foundation containment area. This happened in June of 2005. There was a minor accident in one of Site-12's compartments, where there were 6 young chicken-footed creatures. The retaining wall collapsed and killed 5 specimens. The researchers considered all individuals to be dead, but the staff who conducted the examination at the site of the collapse made a mistake. The 6th individual had, in fact, ran away, and at a fairly large distance. It was found in December of 2011, almost 500 miles, or 800 kilometers from its place of containment. And perhaps the creature would have gone further if not for the thin ice. The object fell through the water and drowned. By the time of death, the hut on chicken legs had grown to almost 28 feet, or 8.5 meters. Considering the object's similarity to the folklore dwelling from Russian fairy tales, the staff decided to ask Baba Yaga directly about her involvement in the anomaly. After all, this one is also contained at the Foundation under the number SCP-352. However, she denied having any connection to SCP-3168. She claimed that she didn't have any information about the object at all, and didn't really want to talk about it. To me, it seems like she's being deceptive. Why is she so reluctant to talk about it? Is she afraid the Foundation will take the property away from her? The objects have belonged to the Foundation for quite a while now anyway. Or maybe there's some secret in the huts or nesting dolls. A weak point for Baba Yaga. Share your theories about the connection of these objects in the comments below.